Good morning, everyone. Back here in my office. Um, Wanted to do a journal entry. I'm a little not as rested as I would like. Last night I remembered a new part and a recall of a memory. Um, and then my dog had me up a couple times in the night. So not as rested as I would like, but I'm certainly able to sit here and read and talk to you all. Um, So I'll just get into it. This is dated January 2nd of 24. So finally made it into the year 2024. Kind of blown away that my all these memories, it's just a mountain of them since October. And anyway, I recall Grandpa used to sit on the altar center chair. I'll bring those pictures back up so you can see. Lodge, Coven Lodge. So I went back and re-sketched this. I guess it was what, a few weeks, or when was the first date on this? December 29th. So it's just 3 days later. I sketched it again and I used a ruler so it could be a little more clear for me. Um, so here's the basement coven. And I wish I had drawn this with the basement down here in the second floor up there, but I didn't because it's the basement that I always remembered first. Remember, I told you there was an incinerator under the stairs and then a tunnel. And I'll show you a picture of the tunnel as well. About how to do this. Here we go. So there's the tunnel coming off of the basement. I'm going to put on there, the children were brought in. Now, this tunnel is not just the length of the basement. I mean, in perspective, I don't know, I want to say it was very long. I'm thinking like 100 feet long. And again, the walls and the floors had human bones embedded in them that you could clearly see. And then right here, before you get into the sacrificial area, the basement, there was an altar carved in. And then there were skulls and bones and candles. Um, what else did I put here? Oh, there were baby and adult skulls. Oh, and this is also where my grandmother kept her ingredients for doing her potions and spells and stuff. I remember I could feel a cold wind coming through there. Like I said, I never went through the tunnel, but my grandmother brought me into this little altar storage area from time to time. And over here, I put that there was a door and a light source. But again, I'm thinking this was, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 feet long. I never went down it, but so I'll get rid of that. And then here, in terms of this entry, here's the Masonic area. There's a library, closet, little bathroom, you know. Stairs go under this bathroom, but there was this raised seating. There's a pillar. What did I write on here? Oh, the hexagram window right there. It's chairs. The Grand Master sat there. And there was just some stairs coming up here. This is where the children were laid on these tables, ritual space. And there were candles there, candles and incense on the points. And the men who were not abusing, the children who were being abused, the men were inside of this area going counterclockwise, and the men outside. moved in a clockwise area, but as they waited, they would masturbate and could, just do whatever they did. So I'll pull that back out. I'll close that. I'll stop share. I recall Grandpa used to sit on the altar center chair. All the ladies went by him in their robe and did a sex dance, about 1 or 2 minutes each. I'll make a note here because I saw that once on a video. And see if I can put a clip of that up or a link. You can see what I'm talking about. There were about 20 of us. First, his mistress slash wife slash my grandma. First was her, and then down the ranks. So each one went by the main one first. I was one of the last because I was, I believe, 3 or 4. All the ladies slash girls opened their robe to show their naked bodies. It was to try to seduce him and his 2 men beside him. I hated it. I didn't know what to do. So when it was my turn, I just opened my robe, put it down, spun around to show all of me, and I swished my hips from side to side and quickly moved on. I figured I could get away with doing the circle dance badly with the witches downstairs, so I could get away with it with Grandpa. Grandpa said, "Wait a minute, come back here." I froze. He called me again. The ladies pushed me over there. He had me stand in front of him. He said, "What was that?" "I don't know." I was close to tears. He took his middle finger and put it in my vagina and roughly and quickly pushed me backwards and forwards. My whole body moved. He said, "No, just move your hips. Stand still." He did it again and I rocked my hips. I started to cry and looked down. His forefinger and ring finger was digging into my groin. It hurt. He slapped me and said, "Don't ever give me that cutesy shit again. You grind your good pussy for me. You got it? And swallow those tears now. Now do it for me." So I did it with his finger still inside. I swallowed the tears. Then he touched his cheek with the finger that was inside of me and said, "Now give me a kiss." So I did. He wiped my fluids on my mouth with a vengeance. He had to give him a kiss and then he wiped that on me. It was revolting. "Now get out of here," he said. I went to wipe it off and he demanded I leave it there. I put on the side here, I don't like to dance at all to this day. I'm sure it was due to this. There were 2 younger girls after me. Then we all went downstairs with the ladies and changed to leave. I had an upset stomach always. I washed my face. I was to turn 4 years old in a few weeks. Angie and Mary said, "You got to do what he says, Diana." Grandma and Grandpa scared me, always. It was very difficult to be at their house and pretend everything was normal. Grandma would freak out at Mom to not throw away 1 tablespoon of leftover corn. Mom was really taken aback about it, but did what she wanted. Excuse me. Grandma and Grandpa both winked at us a lot and did the shh finger on their mouths to me, Angie, and Mary. I hated having to hug, kiss, or sit on either of their laps. They smelled bad. I would shudder in their grasp. Angie and Mary could pretend way better than me. Their house was dark, cluttered, dusty, and smelly. It was not, I was not a good actor at all. Why act at all, I figured. It was for Mom. Off to the side here, I put, Grandma would pinch my neck and shoulder area to commandeer me around whenever she saw fit. She did it to all of us. Mom would argue with Dad about it. He said it's just how she is. Grandma was a bully to all of us. Grandpa just watched her and ate it up. Dad was forbidden forbidden to let mom or us be with mom's family. They were very Christian, and dad couldn't allow, quote, that poison, and to get it under control quickly. That's what dad would say about mom's Christian family, that it was poison and had to get it under control quickly. We never knew mom's family, my mom's dad's side. It hurt mom a lot. Here's the thing. We knew the Esch family. Her parents divorced and she remarried. So her first name was Sam's last name, and her second last name was Esch, Eash. We knew the Esch family. That was only because they were drinkers and members of the Elks Club. So dad was okay with us knowing my mom's mom and her new husband, because they were just fucking drunks, just drunks, and abusive to my mother. But dad refused to allow her to know her Sam's family, who lives in a different city. And they were Syrian. They were Christians that came over from Syria in like the late 1880s, and very Christian, good people, but we never knew them. When I was about 50, I got curious and talked to my mom about it, and she had me call her cousin Sylvia, who to this day is still alive. She's 88, but I interviewed Sylvia for 5 years and collected pictures and stuff, and I made a picture book and learned about that family, and they're very Christian. So anyway, dad never let us know them. And mom only was able to go to her dad's funeral because my mom just threw an absolute fit, her biological father's funeral. And that was the man, my mom's uncle, my great uncle Barney, who was the one that saw me in the mirror, looking at myself, seeing myself as dead, asking for help. And he was the one that whisked me away to that room and baptized me. So they were good people. This next entry is January 13th of 24. I recall being in the upstairs man's room. I was sent up there to meet someone. I'm going to bring that picture up again. This really surprised me when I got this memory. Was this the Masonic Lodge? As I waited, I went to the room that was always closed, but now the door was open, and I'm talking about this library here. I felt it pulling me in. So I was hanging out up here. Nobody was up there. I was supposed to wait for someone, completely empty room, but I was drawn into this library. I felt it pulling me in. I walked over to the open door and looked in. There were lots of books and bottles and jars, science stuff. I think I was 3 or almost 3, my first visit there. This was before the rituals and all the abuse and events. I was about 10 feet in the room and a man came in behind me. So I'm like maybe right about here, looking around. And a man came in behind me. He was old. He smiled. He said, "You know you should not be in here." I got scared and froze and looked down. He came and lifted my chin with his finger. "And yet you are here. Why?" "I don't know," I said. "Oh," I put on the side here. I said, and a man came in behind me. I put off to the side. It was quiet, almost floated. He appeared from nowhere. Okay. He said, "You know you should not be in here." I froze. He lifted my chin. He said, "And yet you are here. Why?" "I don't know," I said. "Well, since you are here, let's look around. What would you like to see?" I touched a book. I came over here, that little X. I touched that book there. He said, "Books. Books are very important, especially old ones. Which do you desire? Look deeply." "Oh, here." So walked the length of the shelves about 15 feet. I touched one far on the left, deep in the room. That's right here. That's when I did that. His eyebrows raised when I pulled it out. "That one. Yes. The room was dusty. You could see dust in the air through a streak of sunlight. It lit up the book. So there are a couple of windows here, which I believe were blinds, but sunlight was coming through the crack on the side. He pulled it out. He says, "You know what that says?" I shook my head, no. "It's very old. Of all the books here, you went to this one." And his eyebrows raised. I didn't say it was because of the sunlight on it. I just shrugged my shoulders. Oh, I didn't say it was because of the sunlight on it lighting it up. I just shrugged my shoulders. He said, "This is about the Savior Jesus. Do you know him?" I shook my head. He said, "That's okay. You don't need to. Let's go sit here and talk a while." So he sat in a big leather chair with a high back. I went to sit on the other chair, but he tapped his thigh and said, "No, sit right here." I sat on his knee. He smelled sour and rotten. He was bony. So this is the chair that he chose. I was going to come sit here, but he sat there. Now, I added something on the side here. He asked if I knew him. I shook my head. He said, "Everyone here will have their pleasures with you." Forgot about that. "I am here to see what you are made of. You'll probably never see me again unless," he didn't finish his sentence. So let's see about this book. He talked about that book and Jesus and told me about what the book said and that I was not to believe the stories about him. They were lies, that I should study hard in school and listen to Dad and Grandpa. Now, I realized later that that book was the Bible, the actual Bible. It was a pretty big one. And that I was to leave this book alone. I put in parentheses Bible. It had nothing to teach, is what he's saying. Did I understand? As he pinched the back of my neck really hard. That's when I saw his face changed and I was scared. I nodded. My stomach got upset and a rock in my gut. My hair got tingly. He had morphing eyes. And then I added something later. He said, "You can see, can't you?" I tried to look away and down. He said, "Look here at me." I did. He put his fingers up to my eyes. Wow, I forgot all about this. He put his fingers up to my eyes. How interesting right now. I'm scratching my eyes, the dry skin on my eyes. He put his fingers up to my eyes, the index and pinky, like this, onto my eyes. The devil horn, and said, "You do not see what you see." I totally forgot about that. I could almost feel electricity going from his fingers to my eyes. There was a tingly pressure. My eyes watered, but I wasn't crying. It confused me, my mind. And he said, "Now get downstairs. Mistress was waiting." Mistress is my grandma. I jumped off his lap and walked out as fast as I could. As I went through the room and down the stairs, I had to go past the men coming upstairs. They all glared and looked greedily at me. One man licked his mouth at me. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. As I got to the bottom, that man was at the top. So the guy whose lap I sat on, I'm going down the stairs and he's up here and I'm at the bottom. As I got to the bottom, that man was at the top and projected his voice down to me. "Remember what I said?" As I was turned to go to the room, I looked up. I saw his devil face smiling. I was terrified. I nodded. I got out of that stairwell down to the ladies on the main floor. I heard him tell Grandpa, "She's strong. You'll have to watch that one very carefully. Keep a tight lid on her. She's the third girl and a Leo to boot, plus her name," which again, Diana. Then the lady set me up to go downstairs to grandma and the sacrifice of the baby. And that was when, and then this is where I drew the sketch of that I'm showing you right now. So I'll pull this out. I go down here where all the other girls are getting ready for this ritual. And so what happened in this journal here is I'd go back and I'd reread it, and as I'd reread it, like a day or two later, I'd remember more details and write it all out again. So I'm sorry I'm going over the same thing, but that's just how my journal turned out. So then they send me down this stairwell to get my robe because the other girls had been getting ready, but because I was upstairs, I hadn't been getting ready. So that's why I was sent down there alone to get my robe to find the baby. Let me see, at the bottom of the stairs. So that's, yeah, we would come down this way, and the bottom of the stairs would be right here. So this is January 16th of 24. I recall that more occurred in that library. After I selected the book and handed it to the man, he placed it on the table and said, let's just put that aside for a moment. I totally forgot about this too. I was still standing to his left, and he took a hand and guided me in front of him. So we're still here. Or I'm going back in time again. Do you know patty cake? I nodded. I smiled a bit. Patty cake is fun. He put his palms out and said, let's do it this way. Put your hands on mine. His palms were up like this. I did. Then he turned his right hand over so mine was under. So he went like this. My hands are on his, and then he turned my hand. Now, can you feel that? He asked me. I was confused. No. How about now? My hands started to tingle. Surprised, I said, yes, it tingles. He said, good. How about now? It was like electricity. I was startled and pulled away and stepped back. What's wrong? Too much? I nodded. How about you try? He said. I stepped forward, wary, but I put my hands on his again, but he traded the hand positions. He said, just think of a flow of air that moves from this hand to that hand, and then send the air to me. Remember the tingle? Send it back to me. I did. I just did it. It was a flow of energy that I could move. He raised an eyebrow and nodded. Good. Now more. Send more. I did. Good. Now let's do this. Our hands were facing each other about 2 inches apart. Now we're like this. Do it now, he said. I did. Good. Again. But now we're like a foot apart. Good. Now let's make a ball right here between our hands, a ball of energy. We did. I could see a fuzzy static-like blob in between our hands. Good. Now you hold it. I did. I was energized. I was doing it. He said, good. Now throw it somewhere. Over there. He pointed to the book, the Bible. I did. The book quickly moved off the table. He nodded. I was surprised and excited. Well, now we know what you can do. Let's keep this our secret. I nodded. Now come sit. I went to the other chair as he bent over to get the book. As he sat up, he said, no, sit right here. He tapped his left thigh. So that would put me as far away from that other chair as possible. So I did. When I got on his lap, I was enveloped in his energy. He smelled. His leg was bony. That's when he told me to disregard the book I chose, the Bible, and Jesus, that they were lies. When he did that thing with his fingers, the devil horns, to my eyes, I believe that's when an entity entered me, or I believed so. Also, on the first hand touch, I think that's why I could do what he asked. It was the entity, but it made me believe it was me. is pumping my ego up. So I'm doing this energy work thinking that I'm doing it, but there's an entity doing it. And I understand now that the entity wasn't inside of me. It was probably just very close. Um, I also realized that when later on that skin was put on my shoulders, another entity entered me. So as I'm writing this journal, I'm believing that I had demons enter me. It makes me shudder even recalling it. Last night, when I realized it, after much avoidance, and then I put a line off to the side, the avoidance was me initially believing this was some sort of gift from God and that it must be a good thing, a natural thing. I was led around in my mind, the demon, in circles of confusion, by the demons. It finally hit me after quite some time that this was entities and not good. That's when I had the aha moment and thus cast them out. Now, at this time, I had started looking around, the deliverance ministries and found Derek Prince and watched, one of his casting out videos and then participated in it. And then I wrote it all down and would cast demons out of myself at night, after I did my prayers, or I don't even know if I was praying at that time. But I watched Derek Prince for probably 2 or 3 months. I just thought this guy was the shit, oh my God, I was all into it. And I was, my husband sometimes drinks too much. And when he would get obnoxious or rude or cross boundaries, I would cast demons out of him. Anyway, there was a Derek Prince show once where he was just giving a sermon and he was talking about the Eucharist and praying and whatever. And all of a sudden he stopped and he says, "Now, I don't want y'all to think that this is crazy, but every morning when I have my tea and I don't know, toast or cookies, whatever, it was a light breakfast he was describing. Every morning I imagine when I drink my tea that I'm drinking the blood of Jesus and eating Jesus' body." And I got this vibe that he knew what he was doing was not right. And I didn't know if it was right or wrong or not. I thought, okay, but just the fact that he had taken the time to qualify that act and tell his audience, "I know y'all," it gave me a red flag warning. And I was like, well, that's odd and interesting. And that was when I started sniffing something wrong. And I looked him up on Wikipedia to discover that he he had gone to Eton. Here, I'll bring that up. Which Alan Watt had talked about all the elite members of society. Yeah, would go to Eton, the Prince, the whatever. And Derek Prince had studied philosophy and was all into it. And he decided that he was going to join the military. And when he joined the military, he thought, well, what book should I take? He thought, well, I'll take the Bible because that's, the greatest, philosophical book of all time. And he wasn't saved at that time. But when he got in the military, he describes how he had this experience and became saved. Now, his alma mater, King's College, Cambridge, King's College is a nest of elite people who are evil. And here he is going to King's College. University Cambridge, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Now, why is a Christian hanging out in a Hebrew university? And Eton College, which Alan Watt talked about, how all the upper elite and even every member of the BBC for years and years and years and years and years, the only people that they hired were people who were graduates of Eton College. And that's when I started sniffing a controlled opposition. I believe that this man, and he's dead now, but he has millions of viewers on YouTube, draws you in with 95% good information. But just like rat poison, 95% corn, and then there's that 5% poison. And when he said that about having his morning breakfast and drinking the blood of Jesus and eating the body of Jesus, I sniffed it out. And I thank God, because Alan Watt had taught me, So anyway, yes, deliverance can and is necessary for some people, but I believe you've got to be a saved Christian. And I also want to put out there that I think that a lot, excuse me, a lot of SRA victims believe that they've been possessed by the devil. I think, and I believe, for me, in my experience, is that I was able to perform acts of witchcraft. But what was going on was there was a demon doing it, not from the inside out, from the outside behind me where I couldn't see it or sense it. And I thought that I was doing it. So I have parts in there that believe that they are a demon or a witch and can do these things. But it's not true. It's part of the deception, at least for me. So I forgot where I was. Oh, I realized after much avoidance. Oh, yeah, and then casting them out. So I'll go back here. Last night, when I realized that after much avoidance, I proceeded to cast out the demons. There were many, although they were all very nebulous energy forms, no body I could perceive. So this is as I'm wrapped up in this deliverance stuff. And honestly, I do think I cast out some stuff because Derek Prince talked about that generational stuff. But I think it was, I don't know, it was energies. It was just this nebulous, foggy stuff. All very nebulous energy forms, no body I could perceive. As I did that, I recalled all the other times in my life when certain people touched me just to realize an entity, nebulous as well, had entered. There were quite a few. One was the Reiki ritual, where I was learning Reiki, touched the top of my head. One from a creepy boss at work, he touched my shoulders. I remember feeling this energy. One from Dad and his smoke, coming into my mouth. He would shotgun weed into my mouth. This guy in the library, and this, with his hands with my eyes. And the skin at the sacrifice that touched my shoulders. I still creep out from it. Plus a palm reading once as well I had, I was in my 20s, I felt the energy. Also, when Star was a woman I knew later on, you'll learn about her, attempted to kiss me and I recoiled. She was, so again, that was the mouth. And once when a boyfriend was drunk and kissed me upside down, I remember just the strange thing. One was a self-empowerment class on stage. I totally forgot about that, where they had you speak a certain thing and you had to act it out. And as you acted it out, it was supposed to be cathartic. But that was about, swirling my hips around in a sexual manner. You can believe that. So each one of those instances, I felt an energy either enter me or be around me or something. And as I'm writing this journal, I'm thinking that they're demons or demonic possession. There was a time once I was thinking about something I was doing and I didn't like it, knew it was not right, and I decided no more, enough. As I decided that, and it was of spiritual nature, and I got to this day, I can't remember what it was. As I decided that, I heard this really loud sound of what I can only describe as electricity. just this high-pitched electrical crackly sound. I remember I was in the shower and I was having this aha moment and thinking about something. And I was like, well, no, that's wrong. I'm not doing that anymore. And that sound just, uh, when the two sides of electricity are being separated and they arc before being disconnected. And so I'm trying to describe this sound. Now, I've never been in the presence of arcing electrical energy, but I've heard it described. And so I'm thinking that that's, similar. I have never seen or heard that before. It was quite distinct and loud. I knew it was demonic, and I had cut a cord right then. Now, this is before I remembered any satanic ritual abuse. I believe my husband and I were married, and um, yeah, I was in the shower and having this aha moment. For the life of me, I can't recall what it was, though, but it's never been an issue again, whatever it was. So I had this aha moment and made a conscious choice, no more, enough. And something separated from me. It was, and then down here I have this strange, oh, dang. Anyway, it's a list I put, but casting out of demons in me seems to be the utmost importance that I have done. And so I put a list of all these different things: fortune tellers, divination, clairvoyance, crystal healing, channelers, Ouija boards, tarot cards, pendulums. I used to screw around with that in the New Age, chanting, spirit guide. I had a spirit guide by the name of Joseph. ESP, smudging, American Indian smudging, astrology and charts, reading your chart. I had the weepy ceremony with the American Indians, palm reading, the sweat lodge with the American Indians, New Age books, and using crystals. So that's it for this journal entry. But it was really all the focus of that, which is kind of ironic. I selected just those pages, but it was about the demonic interference and confusion and how they make you believe that you are doing things. And this is corroborated by a man I saw on YouTube a few months ago. He was an ex-Satanist magician, and they called him a mage. And apparently he was the head of an area, and then I think he wound up being the head of the United States. And he helped select people to be actors and actresses. How they go through the culling process and select from the millions of people. But he talked about being in a ceremony, how he could levitate. And he said, well, it wasn't me levitating. He said it was a demon that lifted me up, that literally lifted him up. He said he was okay when he got to about 100 feet. He said, but one time the demon took him up to 300 feet and he got freaked out and got nervous and asked him to be set back down, and they did. So these acts of magic are not from demons from within you. This is what I believe. They are from demons acting, I don't even want to say through you. I think around you, making you believe that it's in you, inside of you, from you, pumping up your ego, giving you all these deceptions. It's not true. And particularly if you are a saved Christian, Jesus possesses your soul, not any other entity. Now, I'm not sure how that works for non-saved people. Perhaps they do enter you. But I'm going to suggest, if you're out there doing deliverance, you need to get baptized and saved first. And in that process, the demons will be gone instantly. So, I mean, it's just my experience. Now, granted, I did all this casting out and, deliverance stuff on myself before I became baptized, but the baptism, I think it was the baptism that opened up my memories. So, oh yeah, and then I found Derek Prince and did the deliverance stuff. Oh, because I believed I was possessed, but it took me a little while later till I understood that no, only Jesus possesses you. And because I had been baptized as a baby and didn't remember it and whatever, but so, and I'm reminded I was listening to one of Emma's podcasts on from the Imagination podcast, and she was interviewing someone. I can't remember her name. Even while I was watching the show, I had to stop and look at it 4 or 5 times. Can't remember her name. She's from Australia. But she reminded me, and it made me think I need to say this in my videos as well, that this is a spiritual war. I believe a lot of you probably know and understand that. But if you are of other religions that are not Christian and you worship other gods, I'm just going to say it flat out. I don't know how you can fight the devil with a God who is aligned with the devil. Lucifer isn't anti-Buddhist. Lucifer isn't Sufi. Lucifer isn't anti-Muslim. Lucifer isn't whatever they worship in China, Tibet, and whatever. Lucifer is only anti-Christ. That's Lucifer's only enemy is Christ and the worshipers of Christ. So you got to ask yourself, what is so special and different about Christ? Why would Lucifer be so scared of Jesus? Because Jesus can beat him, and Jesus has beaten him. So check out Christianity. Accept Jesus as your Savior. Learn what you need to learn. Check out those books that I've recommended. And they're not written by Christians. They're written by biblical scholars. I mean, perhaps they're Christians. I never really looked into it, but it's a spiritual war, and you need the strongest weapon that you can possibly get. And that is Jesus. He protects you. Anyhow, that's enough of that. I'm going to say God bless you all. And have a great day. Have a great week.